Senator from California.
Well, I want to say Senator Inhofe, I know he has a hectic schedule ahead of him. What a pleasure it is to work with you and your staff, Alex, and our Jason and Ted and others. We have a lot of disagreements on a lot of issues, but we set those aside. And it's exciting to get something done for the people. For example, in this manager's package, we have a new chief's report in Pennsylvania, a critical restoration program in Oregon and Washington, funding for restoration of the Great Lakes, a wide variety of other policy recommendations that come from all over the country from all of our colleagues. So I not only want to thank Senator Inhofe, my chairman, who is my chairman, but also my staff and Senator Inhofe's staff, in particular Bettina Poirier, Jason Albrecht, and Ted Ilston from my staff. This has not been easy to get all of us together to have a unanimous consent request agreed to. I also want to thank the floor staff, Trish and Gary on our side, because I made them a little crazy during this process, and they actually allowed me to do that. But it does take a lot of push and pull to get a bill like this done. And so what I'd like to do for the next few minutes, I know Senator Murkowski will speak following me. I just want to talk about why we have worked so hard and why it is critical that we pass this bill this week, S2848, the Water Resources Development Act, which we call WRDA 2016. We need to repair our nation's aging infrastructure. We need to grow our economy and create jobs. I think that's where the sweet spot is across the aisle. We have an infrastructure crisis in our country. It's not me saying it. It's the American Society of Civil Engineers. They're Democrats, they're Republicans, they're independents, they're North, South, East, West. They came together and said our infrastructure is a D+, a D+. And so we just have to move forward. Also, we need to make sure that the Corps, the Army Corps, when they write a chief's report, has the go-ahead from Congress. We don't have any more ability as members to say this is an earmark. We don't do that. What we must do is look at the Corps reports and give them the authority to move ahead if we feel that the Corps report is in the best interest of our people. We have over $14 billion for 30 chiefs reports in 19 states. And these projects, you ask, what do? They increase navigation, their flood risk management, their coastal storm damage reduction, their ecosystem restoration. And as far as navigation is concerned, we know that we authorize important projects to maintain vital navigation routes for commerce and the movement of goods, and our bill builds on the reforms to the Harbor Maintenance Trust Fund. So we're just going to show a few charts. This is the Port of Charleston. If you look at these containers, they look small on this photo. Each one of these is just enormous, and what we know is if we can't move goods to and from the country, our economy stalls. So that is critical. We extend permanently prioritization for donor and energy transfer ports, emerging harbors, and Great Lake ports. We allow additional ports to qualify for these funds, and we make clear that the Corps can maintain harbors of refuge. The bill also authorizes 9 chiefs reports that I mentioned in 9 states that will allow investment in essential port and waterway projects, including the deepening of that Charleston Harbor in South Carolina. It does no good to have these ships try to get in. If you need to dredge the waterway, you better have authorization to do it. We widen and deepen the navigation channels at Port Everglades in Florida to address safety issues and congestion. We construct new locks in Pennsylvania at 3 of the oldest locks and dams on the Ohio River system. These aging locks were built in the 20s and the 30s. We have got to address the aging infrastructure, and this is what you see the workers doing. Our ports and waterways, which are essential to the U.S. economy, moved 2.3 billion tons of goods in 2014 And WRDA 2016 will provide major economic benefits that will keep us competitive in the global marketplace. We also deal with storms and floods. Now, we've seen these storms and floods just expand exponentially. We are stunned when we see our beautiful citizens looking at everything they possessed being lost in a flood. And it's billions of dollars of damage, it's loss of life. We've seen communities wiped out. This is a scene from Louisiana. This bill will save lives by helping to rebuild critical levee systems around the country, including levees to protect the capital of my state and surrounding communities. Sacramento is in desperate need of flood control. We've done it year after year, and we're very hopeful that the work we put into it will make sure that we don't see a Katrina happening anywhere in my state or any other place. This bill authorizes $8 billion for 17 flood control and storm damage projects in 13 states, including a project to build levees and flood control structures to reduce flood risk in San Antonio, Texas. I think we have the picture of the flooding there. Look at this. We just have got to rebuild our infrastructure to protect against floods. We also have a project to rebuild aging levees in Manhattan and Kansas that protect public and private structures valued at $1 billion, and projects to protect coastal communities in South Carolina, in Florida, North Carolina, New Jersey, and Louisiana. WRDA also establishes a new program at FEMA to fund the repair of high-hazard dams that present a public safety threat. These hazardous dams are threatening numerous communities across the nation, and WRDA 2016 will make those communities safer. And the bill authorizes more than $3 billion for projects to restore critical ecosystems like the Florida Everglades. WRDA 2016 updates existing programs. It creates new initiatives to advance the restoration of some of the nation's most iconic ecosystems, such as the Great Lakes, Long Island Sound, the Delaware River, the Chesapeake Bay, Columbia River, and Puget Sound. And WRDA responds to the serious challenges many of our communities are facing. While we have horrific flooding, we also have horrific droughts, especially in the West. This was all predicted by scientists who said, watch out, climate change is coming. And we've seen terrible fires, terrible flooding, terrible droughts, more extreme weather all over. That was predicted. So what we want to make sure of is that we can make sure we can improve the operation of our dams and reservoirs to increase water supplies and better conserve existing water resources. And I have a very special excitement associated with the dealing of drought, because the bill builds on my legislation, the Water in the 21st Century Act, or as I call it, W21, to provide essential support for the development of innovative water technologies such as desalination and water recycling. I had the opportunity to visit a desal plant in California, the only one operating. It's pretty remarkable. It isn't cheap. It's a public-private partnership, but when you need water, you need water. So absolutely, we have to look at the ways to utilize energy in a smart way and move toward desal and move toward water recycling, water recharging. The bill allows states to provide additional incentives for the use of these innovative technologies through the State Revolving Fund. It establishes a new innovative water technology grant program, and it reauthorizes successful existing programs such as the Water Desalination Act. It also deals with Flint, Michigan. And I am so grateful to everyone on both sides who allowed us to finally address Flint, Michigan. I want to show you what they dealt with this corrosive piping. Because the state changed the way they got their water, they started to draw from highly polluted water, and this is what it did to the pipes. The lead contamination in Flint, we know all about it, but it's not only in Flint. It's in other cities across the country that are dealing with aging lead pipes, such as Jackson, Mississippi, Sebring, Ohio, and Durham, North Carolina. The American people have some rights. They have a right to clean water. When they turn on their faucets, they shouldn't be scared of what's going to come out. Yet, the American Water Works Association estimates that as many as 22 million people live in homes that receive water from lead service lines. Now, this bill begins the much-needed work to ensure safe, reliable drinking water for every American. It provides $100 million in state revolving fund loans and grants for communities who have a declared drinking water emergency. It provides more than $700 million in loans under the Water Infrastructure Finance and Innovation Act, which we call WIFIA. We have a program in transportation that my friend in the chair, Mr. President, you're very familiar with, called TIFIA, which you and I worked on together to save it. WIFIA works the same way. If a local government has revenues, they can use those to pay back the federal government for practically interest-free loans and complete a project far faster. So this WIFIA is very exciting for me because I'm leaving here, and I would like to leave behind a way for communities to access help this way. It's not a giveaway. It just says to a community, if you're willing to help yourself, the federal government can front the money. You can rebuild your infrastructure much quicker. And when it comes to crumbling infrastructure, we don't have a minute to waste. So the WRDA bill helps those communities dealing with the horrible effects of lead poisoning by investing in public health programs to help families deal with the impacts. The bill changes the law to require that communities are quickly notified if high lead levels are found in their drinking water. The worst thing is to ignore that and then have some child all of a sudden have learning disabilities. You don't know why. You've done everything right, and your child is suffering. We want to say the minute there's too much lead in the water, parents, you're going to know about it, and you can protect your child, because the one way to protect a child, get rid of their exposure to lead, whether it's in the air, whether it's in the water, whether it's in a product. We know that for sure. Now, in closing, I'm going to talk about a few things for my great state, because we have 40 million people there, and we have so much congestion, and we have so many problems. We also have so many assets, mostly our people, and we have so much beauty in that state. But I'm going to talk about a few things we did. First, we authorized a critical project to revitalize the Los Angeles River. Yes, there is a river in Los Angeles. Everyone kind of looks at me and said, you got to be kidding. No, there is. But it's been the whole area has been neglected. Now, finally, after working with the community, and boy, this took effort on everyone's part, the city, the county, Senator Feinstein, myself, the members of Congress, everybody worked together, the Chamber of Commerce, the unions, everybody. We got a great plan for how we're going to revitalize the river and make it just a beautiful place to go and stimulate economic development. Our bill also authorizes a project to restore wetlands and improve flood protection in San Francisco Bay. One of the most iconic photos I could show you, the Golden Gate Bridge, but we need to improve flood protection. We're going to have the rising sea levels, and I'll tell you, one of the great ways to get a hold of that issue is to restore wetlands, because then when the floods come, it slows up the flow and takes the nutrients that would otherwise go into the bay. So we know whether we're dealing with Lake Tahoe, that I'll talk about in a minute, or San Francisco Bay, you want to make sure that you can have your flood protection working so that these wetlands will hold the water and hold the nutrients back. We will rebuild levees that protect, I told you, Sacramento, which is a critical area, and we have an amazing and important program to provide critical habitat and improve air quality near the Salton Sea. I don't have time to go into explaining what the Salton Sea is, but it is one of the largest man-made lakes known. And it's drying up because of the drought. And what happens is because the farmers would take their extra water and dump it into the Salton Sea, there's a lot of harmful toxins from the pesticides in there. So as the sea dries up, the sand holds all this toxin. And when the wind blows, it carries these toxins and these chemicals into the lungs of the people who live around this gorgeous area. And it was once a thriving area, but it's changed. It also is the landing place for about 400 different species of beautiful waterfowl that rest there on the Pacific Flyway. So it's been neglected. We need to make sure that where the sea is drying out, we can have pockets where there's wetlands, where there's restoration, and we're working together with the state. And I'm excited about the fact that this bill will authorize the use of local people, nonprofit people, city councils, supervisors, state and federal government will now be able to work together, and water districts, on common projects to save the Salton Sea. This is a tough one, and I'm going to be leaving here knowing that this isn't fixed, and I don't like that I won't be here to fix it. But I'm leaving it to everybody. That includes you, Mr. President. You'll be here a while. You gotta keep your eye on the Salton Sea because it's disappearing and we have to fix it. Finally, this bill invests in the restoration of the jewel of the Sierra, Lake Tahoe. Oh, this is something. I was just out there with Senator Feinstein, Senator Reid, and Governor Brown. It's quite a special place, and it's a treasure. California shares it with Nevada. It's home to more than 290 species of wildlife. It lures 3 million visitors every year. But it's got real problems, the same type of problems I talked about with the bay. Nutrients flowing into the sea, the warmer temperatures of Lake Tahoe mean that we have algae growing, we got problems with clarity, and it needs our attention. We've done a great job over the last 20 years when President Clinton came out, and we had bipartisan support then, and we now have bipartisan support from Senators Reid and Heller, myself, Senator Feinstein, to continue making sure that Lake Tahoe thrives. So the words that everybody waits for when the senator makes a speech. In conclusion, WRDA 2016 is truly a bipartisan bill which benefits every region of this great country. It will invest in our nation's water infrastructure, create jobs in the construction industry. It will protect people from flooding. It will enable commerce to move through our ports. It will encourage innovative financing through WIFIA, and it will begin the hard work of preparing for and responding to extreme weather. The bill is supported by 90 organizations. We'll just give you a sample, representing business, labor, local government, ports, environmental and conservation groups, and faith communities. So just as an example, the California State Coastal Conservancy, the Coalition for Delaware River, the Congregation of St. Joseph, Association of Water Agencies. We're going to put this all on the record with your permission, Mr. Chairman. The Lake Carriers Association, the Michigan Environmental Council, Green Faith, Friends Committee on National Legislation, Franciscan Action Network, and one more chart, Nature Abounds, Orange County Sanitation District, U.S. Chamber of Commerce, U.S. Conference of Mayors, U.S. Great Lakes Shipping Association, Upper Mississippi River Basin. You can just tell from just the few I read what an amazing coalition we have. We can do this. I have just a fabulous committee that I am the ranking member of, fabulous on my side, wonderful on the Republican side. We really care about getting things done, and I hope we'll have a fabulous vote on this final passage and that the House will take up our bill and pass it. and not go back to square one and start arguing. This, I say to my friends in the House, through this opportunity I have on the floor, this is an example of bipartisanship. This is an example of good governance. This is an example that you should follow, because we avoided the fights, we worked together, we worked it out. Let's get it done. Let's get it to the president's desk. Let's not wait for a lame duck. There's no reason. People should be able to know we did something good for them. We did something great for them. And this bill, while I'm sure it isn't 100% perfect from anybody's eyes, is very solid, very strong, very good. And I hope we'll pass it with the biggest vote we can, and the House will take it up. And thank you so much for your patience, Mr. President, and I yield the floor.